Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in today. It is a real honor for me to introduce our two distinguished scientists who have participated in this really important study. They used artificial intelligence technology to do a validation study. So essentially what that was using computer technology to do sort of an automatic analysis of spine images to assist in surgical approaches. So with me today in this interview is Dr. Marcel Dreischarf from Leipzig, Germany. Marcel is with a company called Raylytic that the National Spine Health Foundation has partnered with on a number of technology initiatives, including looking at this artificial intelligence approach. Marcel has a master's degree in biomedical engineering from the Technical University in Berlin. He studied human medicine and received his Ph.D. in biomechanics and clinical research from the Charité Medical University and Technical University in Berlin. So this is the kind of thing that Marcel has been thinking about and studying and working on for many, many years. And joining us also is Lindsay Orosz, who many of us have seen on staff here at the National Spine Health Foundation and leading many of our research initiatives, including the lead researcher on this artificial intelligence study. So without any further ado, I'm going to hop right into some questions so that we can hear from our scientists with us today. Let me just start up from, right at the top. For those of our listeners who do not know, what exactly is artificial intelligence? And I'll start with Marcel, and then we'll have Lindsay answer that question as well.
Yeah, thank you, Rita. So to say it very simple, artificial intelligence is basically a computer software that learns to perform tasks that are very typical for human beings. The software actually learned from thousands of examples and has, of course, the advantage that it's not getting tired or exhausted and can do tasks that humans or physicians are doing automatically and very precisely and accurately, and can therefore basically enhance the speed and precision of evaluations that our physicians typically are doing.
Very well said, Lindsay.
Yeah, so just to add to that, that's a good technical description, but we actually use AI, all of us, in our daily routine, and probably don't even think about it. Siri on your phone or Amazon's Alexa. If you're on a website buying something, those chatbots that pop up and say, "Oh, can I help you? What are you looking for?" On your computer, there are spam filters. And so the computer understands what is spam and puts those emails in the right folder. And if it missed one and you tell it this is spam, it learns and then knows next time that spam, it goes in the spam folder. There are manufacturing robots that make cars, and these things are taught through repetition and then can execute.
Right. So people refer to that as machine learning sometimes also, right? So that the machines are learning and gaining intelligence. And I think one of the things that, Marcel mentioned in thinking about enhancing speed and precision, I think sometimes about these technologies, the analogy being, like driving a car. So if you're a surgeon and you're doing surgery, these tools only enhance your performance. So like, you could use a map to get from point A to point B if you're driving a car, but using robotic and artificial intelligence technologies, makes it easier and better and faster. And that means less OR time, less disruption of tissues, and faster recovery ultimately. I think that's the exciting thing here for patients. Marcel, tell us, what version of artificial intelligence has Raylytic been focused on?
Yeah, so Raylytic basically focuses on medical image analysis. So when you as a patient goes to the doctor, then you get X-rays very frequently, and these analysis of these X-rays, getting the important information out of the X-rays, is typically very labor intensive, and this is something that we focus on. So we typically analyze medical images that you get as a patient when you go to the doctor, and in order to get parameters or values out of these images that support the physicians in making their diagnosis or planning a surgery, or basically treating you as good as possible.
That's great. So let's talk now about specifically how this applies to the spine, and what role the National Spine Health Foundation played in working with Raylytic. And maybe I'll toss that question over to Lindsay.
Yeah, so like Marcel said, the background to this is that spinal alignment and understanding spinal alignment is absolutely critical. It is a critical part of what a spine surgeon needs to understand about a patient, how to diagnose their problem, how to develop the proper treatment for the patient, and especially if surgical planning is happening. Understanding spinal alignment is critical. So the way that we understand spinal alignment is not just looking at the X-ray, but spine surgeons use geometry to make measurements, multiple measurements on an X-ray to understand how a patient is standing, how the natural curves of their spine and of their body have changed over time because of wear and tear and degeneration. They can take multiple X-rays with multiple measurements and look over time and say, this is how it's changed. This is what the future is going to look like. This is how rapid this problem is happening. And there's just so much information. But making these measurements can be extremely time consuming. You have to be precise. And again, it's not just one measurement, it's multiple, things that they're looking at, and it takes time. And so working on this project is really special because it takes a process that is really important, and it makes it not only faster, but it takes the time and gives it back to the surgeon. And hopefully that time is then spent with the patient, explaining the procedure that they might need or explaining their problem to them more, while that X-ray can be uploaded and the artificial intelligence makes the measurements for the surgeon. They're not spending the time doing it. And it's very precise. When humans, even expert measurement, the measurements are expertly made, the human measurements can vary. It's very hard to get two humans to make the measurements and be exactly the same. Even the same person, expert, making the same measurements at different times can vary, can be different, right? And so the artificial intelligence, it is precise and reproducible, and we don't get that with humans. And so, there are multiple areas that this can affect and help with. So what we did was we took about 250 X-rays and made all of these measurements. Our experts made these measurements, and we were able to train the artificial intelligence to understand how these measurements were made, and then make the measurements itself and compare and see how accurate it was. And these were a bunch of different types of X-rays, some before someone had a surgery, some with spinal alignment problems, some after a surgery where there are implants. There is a wide array of X-rays that were measured to make sure that we were training the AI properly.
Absolutely. And if I could add, one important thing is really that, when you analyze these images, it depends strongly on the experience of the person who is doing that. So typically, you need quite some years of experience in order to make these measurements very precise and very good. And what the artificial intelligence, of course, would provide you is that you have basically a learned system, and it has all the expertise from a lot of measurements that have been done, and is basically, can basically do the analysis always precise. And does not depend on the experience of the physician, basically. And that is, of course, for the quality control and for a good treatment of the patient, so important to have always a very precise and a very well-trained analysis behind the evaluation of the images.
Right. And I think that's such a good point. And Lindsay made this point as well, that it's not that doctors can't read these films and do them, but it's really just a matter of time. If you can train the computer to learn how to do this with reproducible accuracy that's not dependent on a person entering the information, you eliminate issues of human error. You standardize an approach that's great precision, and essentially in the end you buy time for the surgeons. And that's, I think, if anybody's worked around surgeons like Lindsay, being in the operating room for 12 years, that's one of the most precious commodities, for all of us, and particularly as it pertains to surgery, is to buy time with greater accuracy. And I think, to me, that is the big aha, right? That's the big, wow, that you can get this done more quickly, more efficiently, with greater accuracy, and have time. And and have something that is reliable. And that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. So let's talk again, sort of why why this is important to surgeons. Maybe we should take a look at the video that you sent me. Would this be a good time to look at that?
Sure.
Let me bring up the video and talk us through this.
Absolutely. So what you can see here is basically what the algorithm is doing. So similar like a physician, it first of all have a look what are the important anatomical structures. You have just briefly seen that before. So it looks at the image like a human and is basically identifying the different bones, so like a certain lumbar vertebra. And then you see it's doing these measurements that are so important for the surgical planning or for seeing basically what is going on in a patient over time. I think that was pretty quick, but here again, you see that. So it first of all looks at the different anatomical structures, so the vertebrae, and then it very reproducible measures certain angles like this lordosis angle, for instance. And yeah, this is typically very time consuming and is now done fully automatically by the algorithm.
And I see this video is playing pretty quickly here, and I'm seeing lots of, red dotted lines and purple dotted lines. And I'm not able to slow down this video, but I do see that it's quickly, sort of identifying the bony structures there. We're looking at a side view of a person.
Sure.
So we're looking at their side, and you can see the spine, and they're measuring right now the hip and sort of the top of the leg bones, the femurs in the hip sockets, and looking at the angle of how the hip is connecting to the spine, essentially, right? I mean, Lindsay,
absolutely. That's exactly what this is doing. I mean, this is what Lindsay said before. So all these angles have a certain meaning to the physician in order how to treat the patient, let's say, correctly. And these are interrelations between the pelvis and the lumbar spine up to the femurs. And yeah, this is something that is automatically analyzed by the algorithm.
Yeah, you can really see how long it would take someone to be very precise in making that measurement themselves. And one measurement can then play into the next measurement, right? So if you're a few degrees off in one, the next one that you make that's connected can be a few degrees off, and again, so on and so forth. So we want this to be precise and fast and reproducible, which it is. And once we understand that information, then we can take that information and say, all right, well, I need to plan a surgery. Here's what I know about someone's spinal alignment. Then how can I correct it at the time of surgery? And you make the calculations and you figure out, I need this many degrees in order to improve this alignment. I need to do this. And they use these tools in surgery to then make that happen. And if the surgical outcome is better, then it's all worth it.
And it sort of feels like this is a way that in spine, we are incorporating the concepts of personalized medicine. I mean, that's such a buzzword in healthcare
Absolutely.
right now. We think about personalized medicine as it pertains to, like, the DNA sort of footprint for people from various treatments of conditions. And in spine, we're talking about, bony structures and an approach to that anatomy and fixing the anatomy that is altered by trauma or degenerative disease or what have you over time, that's causing the alignment to be off, that leads to pain or, neurological deficit. And so what that means is, if you've got a problem in your spine, we need to fix the bones and the discs. And how do we do that with a personalized approach to people? And so I think this is really exciting because it really does bring that concept of personalized medicine to people in spine. You can drill down and specifically get the exact, degree, angle of how to do the correction per person. So there's no cookie cutter approach here. I mean, that's exciting, I think, for people.
That's absolutely the point, Rita. I mean, in former times, I mean, people know that the person has a certain spine and there's a hip, but we more and more learn that also we have all the same anatomy in general. We see that there are tiny little difference between all of us. Some have a more flat spine, some have a more curved spine, and we understand more and more that people that have this different alignment have to be treated more individual. And what Lindsay said before is also so important because of that these measurements are so time consuming, they are not always done. But what we are now are able to do is we can analyze hundreds and thousands of these patients fully automatically and get a lot of data and can correlate that, for instance, with the patient reported outcome. So with the way the patients are feeling, how much pain they have, for instance, and can very precisely now figure out how these different individualized measurements, how these angles can influence the outcome. And this is where we can learn so much within the next years together because of this automated analysis and the great research that is done at the Virginia Spine Institute, how we can treat patients better. And this is just giving us a lot of opportunities for the future.
Yeah, we are so lucky to partner at the National Spine Health Foundation with Virginia Spine Institute, with Raylytic, and with numerous research partners in getting this information out to patients, and really counting our blessings that we've been able to fundraise to get the dollars in to allow us to be able to do this kind of work. It's really important work, and again, it's just been a privilege for me and an honor to be working with the brilliant scientists who just want to make people's lives better. I mean, that's really what we're doing here. We're almost out of time here, but in closing, I wanted to mention your work is being recognized on a national and international level. Lindsay, can you tell us? We've had some acceptances of our papers. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so there are national and international meetings that spine surgeons attend to learn what other surgeons are doing, new technologies, new implants. I mean, all kinds of things come up at these meetings, and the brightest minds get to share their work. And so 2 of these meetings are occurring and have accepted our paper to explain to the group. And we're really excited to be able to share the results. And then hopefully, as this paper becomes more of a reality, then there can be some utilization.
Yeah. And so what are those? Can you tell us where those 2 places are that you'll be presenting this year?
Yes, the Lumbar Spine Research Society is LSRS, and IMAST is a version of the Scoliosis Research Society. And both of those meetings are virtual this year. Usually they're occurring around the world, but we'll still be able to get our data out there.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And then just in closing, what Marcel, where do we go from here? So we have these incredible research results. We've proven that this technology works. Is the next step looking at FDA approval, or what? How do we get this kind of these kind of tools into practice, into the hands of surgeons who can use them?
That's absolutely a good point. I mean, we have developed a platform, it's called Unity, and that we have already been used. So what we want to do next is basically to integrate these softwares as a medical software into this platform that we have, so that you on the one hand can collect patient-reported outcomes, but can use also our artificial intelligence software basically in daily routine. So this is absolutely our next step that we want to achieve. Then, of course, I mean, we focus on spine, but we know, of course, that other major joints have an important impact. So when it comes to hip joints and the interrelation between hip joint problems and spine problems, so we have, of course, also analyzed or developed algorithms that can analyze not only images of the spine, but also of the hip. Or we have algorithms that very precisely can analyze knee joints, for instance. And this is these are the next steps on our side, for instance.
Yeah, that's so exciting. Of course, we're focused here at the Spine Health Foundation on the spine, but we do also say that, the knee bone's connected to the hip bone and the hip bone is connected to the spine bone. So, the chain, and it's all very important, and it's all very interrelated. So congratulations on that great work, Marcel. We are thrilled to be a partner with Raylytic as your technology pertains to spine. And of course, you've won awards for your software platforms. We are thrilled to be a partner with you. I congratulate Lindsay. I congratulate you, Marcel, and your team. And we're excited to continue moving forward and figuring out these best results for patients and spreading the great news about it and letting people know. So Thank you so much for your time today. And I would say to our viewers, stay tuned. There's a lot more to come.